very, very prompt direction from Lantern Shores in order to move forward, because we have to define what we're looking at as far as capacity. The effluent levels are clearly set out in the environmental assessment, but the capacities are the issues that have changed. So we need to know what the council's thoughts are on these four issues. Does everyone?
Is the area changed for the master plan?
Well, Blue Water is out. Well, Blue Water is not currently going to be working with us on this current phase. They give themselves the option of coming in the future, and the expectation is that if Blue Water comes in the future, it's at that point that things will expand. And we're allowing for that, and we're expecting that at some point they may need to come in. But right now we can't realistically include them in because we'd be paying operational costs, life cycle replacement costs, capital costs for them, with no assurance of their involvement. So yes, there have been changes to master plan.
But not the EA from the master. Councillor Vaughn.
So you're raising some good points. You're raising good questions. The problem is, this is now ad hoc committee recommendations, official plan implications. I don't know how we answer this, and when do you need it by? When do you think
Thursday.
You see, I mean, we're talking about connecting zones 3 and 4. This is now the ad hoc report that we haven't discussed. It's going to have official plan implications. The Pinery going to use the 470. I don't know. This is all. That's almost an in-camera, isn't it? There's some legal implications there. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff here.
There's a lot of stuff here, but wait, Councillor Russell.
Well, I got your email and I understood it fully, and I understand what Brent's saying here. I just going to go backwards a bit and see if I'm going in the right direction. When the gentleman was here from Build Canada, he said that if we stay within the constraints of EA and the master plan, right, and you can do apportionment within the constraints of that EA without changing the EA, then his technical committee would take a look at it. So an alternative to me would be something that would be within the constraints of the EA. So that would be, in my brain, apportionment. In other words, time, capacity, employee. Those three things, right? Have I got this correct? So basically it's taking it back from a whole and coming backwards and putting the correct timelines on it. That's what you need to know now, so that you can look at an alternative?
Well, part of the challenge is that we do have to go back to Building Canada. And yes, the fundamental issues of addressing the environmental issues will be very clear, and the effluent qualities and the time frames. Absolutely, we're pressing to address those in similar form to what we did with the environmental assessment. But the problem is when Blue Water removes themselves and all these other major changes happen outside of our control, it would be foolish for us to build a 4,673 cubic meter plant and pay for all of the capital related costs if it's never going to be used. It's just going to decay, right, within the 20-year time frame.
No.
So that is the critical issue we're dealing with right now, and it does mean an altered approach to Building Canada, and that is to be anticipated.
Motion to go past 10 o'clock.
Motion to go past 10 o'clock.
Second. Councillor Cook, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Ullman, your hand up next.
Well, I'm just looking at the questions that the Deputy Mayor had asked, and really the only valid one for any kind of discussion here is the issue of removing zones 3 and 4. In terms of the Pinery, the Pinery has to work their discussions out with their engineer, M&R and Dylan. And then there may be some involvement with us down the road at some point. What South Huron does, I mean, we're not, all we're directing is what we're going to do about flows. And I guess I have a couple of questions then through you to Brent. I mean, at what point do we start to trigger an environmental assessment and a whole redo? And what are the timelines for that? Because we know what the master plan says. We know what the ESA says in terms of flows.
I spoke to a couple of different engineering firms and the ministry. Once you change the flow, then you're looking at an amendment to the to the ESR, for sure.
As soon as you change the flow, we're
Yes.
looking at amendment.
Yeah, we would have to
Okay.
go through an amendment.
And what would be the timeline, Brent, on that?
It depends on what direction I guess you give us. If to look at these issues here, that'd be quite in depth. It would take months, not weeks.
Okay, Counselor Scott?
Bill Canada sat here and told us that as long as we looked at the EA and the information that, like, as long as it was tertiary, those were his words, tertiary, that we could continue to follow through on what we're doing. You're correct, at some point we do have to know the flows, there's no question about that. Because obviously we're not going to build a 2-train plant to those flows. However, until we establish what the alternatives are, right? Until we look at some alternatives and different things, we don't necessarily have to change the flow. Like, that's not what he indicated sitting at the end of the table.
Counselor Underwood?
We already know our flows required. We've already done all that work for the flows required that we need for Lambton Shores. We moved through all that, that's already been done. What the other municipalities do or do not need is up to them. If Blue Water does not want to come in with us, which if you're going to do any kind of risk assessment, if I was a betting man, I'd be betting that they won't be coming in. So you can take them out. If South Huron says they don't need flows for this, that, and the other, well, that's their business once again. That might adjust the year, but that's their business. So already the plant is getting smaller and smaller. All I care about is that Lambton Shores has sewage capacity for Grand Bend in the future, in 20 years. Now, we may or may not agree on what a forecast of population growth is, and I'm pretty sure there's room in there within the flows, because nothing's ever hard and fast. But the plant is getting smaller as you speak. As soon as we talk about the other ones coming out, I don't think we have to be looking. I mean, otherwise you might end up with the idea of, oh, well, geez, we don't even need what we have now. I mean, we do need more capacity in Grand Bend. We know that. I don't want to even go down this road, but
Well, I just need to clarify some things because indeed, there are variations to what we have projected for flows, Martin. So, and that's where the issue of zones 3 and 4 has to be thought through and just determined. And we can't just keep pushing it off and saying that's going to be decided in the future.
Yeah.
We really do have to stop and make these decisions. And unlike what has been said, the rest of the questions are not pertinent at this time. They're absolutely pertinent because we now have Statistic Canada's numbers that say that the population is not rising at 2% per year. So let's realistically look at those numbers, and we have ways and means of drawing in engineering sources to get us more realistic numbers in that area. And with the pinery, that is our allocation, right? That's within our responsibility, the allocation that's given to the pinery. So if we allow for 217 cubic meters more than their system is designed for, and we reserve that without having any user fees to reimburse us or to remunerate us for that capacity we're holding in the sewage treatment facility or the lagoons or whatever we determine, we are wasting monies there if other developments can potentially take advantage of that capacity. So it's expedient for us to press Pinery to make a decision. Now they say that they want 2 years to see how their system levels out. The only problem with that is they have to be realistic about what their system is designed for. The system is designed for 253 cubic meters. So if it's only designed for that, you will never need 470 cubic meters. So they need to make that decision. We need to make the decision about both zones 3 and 4 and as well as population projections. Whether or not we go with SCADA, which is another investment, it is something of importance. It's a system that provides moderation to the flows of the sewage so that it doesn't peak. Because we're accommodating through the collection system, right? So right now we have peaks, very high peaks, that we have to accommodate But if it was moderated, we wouldn't have to accommodate such high peaks. So that would actually give us more capacity